Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. About a month ago, I created a Bumble profile where I asked people to swipe left, saying that I was going for a record left swipe profile. And before I knew it, I got a lot of right swipes on that profile. And I met up with a girl from Texas. She just thought that was the most creative thing she's ever seen, and she likes guys who can think outside the box. I have really good rapport with one of my students. I teach at a community college, and he thought that was a really silly idea. He said that it doesn't form a good foundation for a good relationship. And then he drew a cartoon. He drew a thumbs down with the thumb just barely precariously balancing, with me and my future wife standing on top of that. And he says, is that the kind of life that you want to begin? It was just really funny. And you know what? A lot of things began in a very precarious way, right? Look at how my Bismuth art career began. It began with a really silly thing as well. Bonus points if you can remember that. But it didn't begin because I studied Bismuth and metallurgy or anything like that. It didn't begin because I was studying art, right? Look at how, a lot of people think I, you guys may remember years ago when I was considerably overweight. I wasn't terribly overweight, but I had binge eating problems. How did I stop binge eating? It didn't begin because I wanted to stop binge eating, and it began more like a diversion from all the lockdowns, and I needed something to keep my mind busy and all that, and using that as an opportunity, right? Do we ever stop and think about how we began various things in our lives, or whether they be personal goals or health goals or your career? If you really stop and think about how you begin your career today, it might not be as straightforward as you think, right? I don't know how most of my viewers watching this. I was at a meetup group last night, and I had two friends who worked with computer technology. I had one friend who was working with billing and collections. I didn't ask them how they began their career, right? But you can imagine it could be a very wacky answer as well, right? I used to love to watch the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and Regis Philbin was really good at making small talk. He would always ask the contestants where they met their spouse, and very, very seldom do you get a very traditional answer, right? You got to remember, this is the late 90s, early 2000s, and usually it involved going to a bar or nightclub and somebody telling a funny joke. Sometimes it involved a friend of a friend. Toward the end of the series, some of them did involve the internet, but toward the beginning, they always started out as some kind of a joke, right? This was the late 1990s, early 2000s. And yeah, you have to pivot at some point. Obviously, you're not gonna, for the entire duration of the relationship, up until the day you die together, you're not gonna wave dislikes the whole time, right? But the dislike could be the jump start. A better analogy is to have jumper cables that are shaped in a dislike figure to get the relationship jumped, and then you can and then you can begin, right? But I was going to boast to him because he and I have really good rapport. After he drew the cartoon figure, I decided I needed a little bit of revenge. I created a fake Bumble profile with Mary Curry. I wrote that I had just lost my husband in a tragic accident a few years ago. He and I worked on nuclear research, and while we were crossing the street, he got this great idea, and the next thing I knew, he got run over. Basically, I created Mary Curry's profile, but 120 years late, right? And I was going to match my profile to that and then brag to I didn't think my student would know Mary Curry, so I was going to brag to him about that. And then before I knew it, Mary Curry's phone blew up with like hundreds of likes, and I was going to buy a membership because I was going to use Mary Curry's profile to talk to guys and see what kind of pickup lines these guys are using online. But before I got to do that, her profile got reported, and just again, it's one of those things. As long as it gets the thing going, right? Seeing Mary Curry get hundreds of likes gave me a little bit of motivation. Maybe if I right now I'm kind of working on some exercises, some bodybuilding, getting that tan in, and getting good skin. You may have noticed that I've been taking good care of my skin and my hair. And maybe someday I could get hundreds of. Now, when I finally do get married, am I gonna joke that it all started on a dislike or it all started with a fake Mary Curry profile? No, that'll be behind us, right? That's not gonna be the meat of a relationship, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.